Hello everyone and welcome to the first edition of 1874 at Home here on our YouTube channel, where I'll be catching up with some of the players and the management, maybe even some of the board members, to see how things are getting on for everyone, how everyone is doing at home. And it's also a bit more of a relaxed chat rather than some of the normal interviews that I'll put across, where I'm normally just stuck behind the camera asking what do you make of the performance, that sort of stuff. So it's just a good chance to get a catch up, a bit more of an extended interview and a real insight into where decisions have been made, how players are enjoying their time for the club, and also how Paul and Wayne deal with things on and off the pitch, and also their lives outside of football as well. And as you can see, I'm joined by Wayne for this one. Wayne, how are you doing?
I'm all right, Matt. Yeah, yourself?
Yeah, I'm not doing too bad. My hair doesn't suggest that, but
Mine does, you know. But then
it's all right for you. You don't need to get a lockdown haircut, really, do you?
No, it's just a haircut for me.
It's so. How are you doing? What things are you doing at the moment that are getting you through lockdown? What other types of things have you been doing that maybe you wouldn't have done during the football season?
I think it's given us a bit more time to kind of prepare things for next season. So, we're looking at, plans for pre-season, what we're going to do session-wise, stuff like that. Paul and I have spoke quite a lot. Most weeks we speak quite a lot still. Spoke to the players. Just trying to find things really, just to sort of keep your day busy, and that's sort of been one of them for me. Just putting more into planning for next year, really.
So obviously it's a bit up in the air as to how football will return and when it will return, etc. So what things have you started getting in place? Have you spoken to all the players about whether there are new plans or not, or could that be subject to change depending on maybe when football returns, if there's a delay, or is everything still set as it was?
No, we'd already started that. I mean, we do that every year. We start speaking to the players well before the end of the season about what their plans are for next year, how we see things, and we'd already started that process. So when obviously then the season ends as quickly as it does, that kind of got accelerated. So once we knew, I think the final decision was made as quick as it was made to sort of null the season straight away. We probably within a couple of days had spoke to all the players on a FaceTime call or Skype, as best as we could face to face, just to get their thoughts and feelings, how they felt about the whole situation, how it affected them in some cases, what they thought about going forward for next season. So we'd had those conversations, and then what we said was that really, as we got to now where the season would be over, we're kind of in a normal cycle for us where the season would end. You probably have a couple of weeks where you're almost glad to see the back of it and you want a bit of a rest, and then within the next couple of weeks you're ready to start again and you're thinking about pre-season. So we've sent out the off-season plans that we send out all the time from a fitness point of view. So they've all got those. I mean, they're all pretty good at doing that anyway, so they're doing their own fitness stuff, but we've sent that out. We've got a target date for starting pre-season, so they've got that in their minds, and if that goes ahead, then great, we'll just continue as normal. But we spoke to them all, and our plans on that point of view of who we wanted to stay, irrespective of whichever league we were in, was always going to be that we wanted everybody to stay with us. And so far, unless something drastic happens, that everybody's indicated that they want to stay.
Well, that's excellent news to hear. Obviously, we had such a fantastic season last year. I mean, we can still count it as a season. It did happen. There's no taking that away from anyone. You mentioned you'd spoken to the players there about how they were feeling on the situation. How were they doing? I mean, I spoke to Lee Jackson last week for my column, and obviously he was one of the more vocal people on social media, voicing his anger towards the decision. And I think rightly so as well. But he actually told me about how, he's now more ready than ever to go again next season. How are the players now doing? Were they struggling at the time, but they're now moving more towards being ready?
Yeah, some definitely, were more, as you say, sort of angry about the whole thing, and sort of not as accepting of it, if you like. But then as time's gone on, they've realised it is what it is. I think at the time none of us really understood what the. Did you lose me then?
No.
None of them really sort of understood, or none of us really understood the severity of the situation in general. So we were thinking, well, what's going on? Now you realise that, it's beyond football. So there's nothing we can do about it. We had to accept it, and that was one of the things that we spoke about initially. Once it was null and voided, as hard done by as we might have all felt, not just us, other teams in the league. We had to kind of get that mindset right that. We can't dwell on it. We can't use it as an excuse next year or feel sorry for ourselves. It is what it is for everybody. So we've just got to kind of refocus. And we've had some more conversations in the last few weeks with a few of the lads. We're planning on if we can, a bit of a Zoom call with everybody on one call in the next week or so we can talk about a few of the things that have cropped up. But they all seem pretty focused and ready to come back and ready to, as they put it, play the season again.
Well, that's exactly right, isn't it? I think you've got to go again. There's no excuses, no hiding from it. It'll be a compliment towards every other team in the league will want to raise their game to match the levels that we set out last season. But it's also important for us to go even better again. Obviously, it was a fantastic season, but you've got to better your levels and raise your standards again. I spoke to Paul, and he said the same in my column a few weeks ago. Now, you mentioned obviously the pre-season, like the fitness regimes that you'll put them through during the off-season. How important is that more than ever? So, really, when you don't know when football will return, that they stick to them and then they keep working through. So when the season, you get the green light that pre-season can start, everyone can hit the ground running.
Yeah. I think I said before, we're fortunate that we've got a lot of lads who are very conscientious about their fitness in general anyway. So they'll do their own stuff. They'll make sure that they look after themselves through the season. That's, that's key really to anybody, because through the season, if you think about it, we only really get about an hour with them on a Thursday, sometimes the same on a Tuesday. The rest of the time you're relying on them to look after themselves. And I know the game fitness comes from playing on a regular basis, but, we can trust them that they'll look after themselves. We sent out programs over the last couple of years just for them for lads that maybe don't put that much thought into it, might just think, well, I'll go for a run. We put some specific stuff together for them, ready for really, so that they know when they come back for pre-season, they've got a bit of a basic level of fitness where we don't have to spend hours and hours just pure fitness work. We can concentrate on doing other stuff, more tactical stuff, if you like, or things with the ball, and just make it that little bit more enjoyable. And I've never been one for wanting to flog people around, a pitch or go for long distance runs, but you've got to have a basic level of fitness. There's no way getting about that, and pre-season is massively important. So I think, again, last year everybody came back the first day. We were very impressed with everybody's levels of fitness, and I would expect the same this year, to be honest.
Do you think that was a conscientious effort from the players, which from the year before? Yeah. I think they'd learned, the pre-season hadn't gone quite as maybe it should have done. And then the season as a whole, it wasn't quite where we wanted it to be. But then obviously you saw by the end of the year, that final against City Liverpool really did spur things on and put everyone in the right place and the right mind to go back. Do you think pre-season last year did have such a massive impact, and that's why we saw the levels of performances consistently?
Massively. I mean, the factors from the one before that, when you look back and you review it, we actually underestimated how much the end of that previous season took out was with the however many games it was in a few weeks, not just physically but mentally, I think, for a lot of lads. So we were probably a little bit jaded in pre-season, and so therefore the preparation wasn't right. So we didn't start the season well, but we felt in that season that from Christmas onwards, we actually got better and better, and we looked okay. And we thought, Bo and I were both speaking about it, saying that we felt that the team was heading massively in the right direction and would be better the year after. But we did all sit down. It wasn't just me and Bo saying, well, this is what we've got to do. We sort of all sat down and spoke to people and said, if we want to try and kick on and be better again next season, these are some of the things we need to do. And everybody agreed that we needed to come back for pre-season, better and stronger and more prepared, and that's what happened. So it does have an effect. It had an effect without a doubt on the overall levels of fitness last year. I think the other good thing as well is there's this kind of, it generates some competition within the squad. So lads don't want to come back and be the ones that are at the back of any running that might be taking place, or the ones that have to drop out because they're struggling a little bit. So yeah, it's a big factor for any club, not just us. I think everybody will want a good pre-season this year, and more so because we don't know at this stage when it's going to start. We've got an aim date, but it might be that it stretches on longer. So you'll have one or two things there. You'll have either people who come back massively fit because they've been doing loads of stuff, or they'll ease off, and these are factors you're going to have to look at.
Now, one thing that we did mention before we started recording is, pre-season went smoothly this year, but we had a couple of disruptions in the early start of the season. Tony was unavailable. We had Mitch, Pritch, Jack Tinnin, Sam Hind, all unavailable. James Blair had just left. Yet we ended the season with the best defensive record in the league, with the most clean sheets and the best defence. You must be delighted with that, really. Looking back over the season, it's one thing getting the best defence, but with so many disruptions and only one recognised defender playing in their position, you must be absolutely delighted with that.
We were happy with the overall performance from a defensive point of view, not just the back four, because it doesn't just come from that. You know, the whole team defend really, and that's a big part of it. But yeah, I mean, you just said it there yourself. We started the season with just one recognised centre half, and that was Ryan. You know, losing Jack Pritchard in pre-season was a massive blow, because you know he'd been so consistent for us for 2 seasons. And then when Ryan started having problems with his Achilles and wasn't quite right, I suppose the question for us was, did we try and go out and get somebody in to come and play? But we didn't think that was right. We thought we had enough in the squad to be able to, you know, Jonah could go and play in there, which I think he's been outstanding again this season. Jacko was one that obviously we put there in the final at centre half, so we knew that he could go and play there, plus 1 or 2 other people, and especially, you know, we just felt the balance of the squad was right, and maybe bringing somebody in after we'd started the season was not going to quite be right. If you remember, we brought young George in from Chester, just really because he was recommended, and we thought, well, we'll have a look, but it just didn't seem right to play him when we had other lads who could play there. You know, James Ormerod went and played in there. You know, Russie went and played in there. So it wasn't something that we felt we needed to do. And in truth, I think if you asked all the lads this, they're probably a little bit disappointed that they conceded as many goals as they did, because if you look at it, we conceded in 2 games, we conceded 4. You know, Earlham at home and Barnoldswick away. Where on another day, if you're really brutal about it, we probably should have only conceded maybe 1, 2 maximum in both of those games. But you know, that was how it was. But no, I think the defensive record for the team, not just the back four, was outstanding last year.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You defend from the first man. You see Scott, obviously, he's one of the most vocal players on the pitch. He's always berating players across the pitch, making sure that they keep the levels and keep the standards there. And that's so good to see from the side. You're watching, everyone's on it all together. And it shows throughout the season. Now, one thing that we did see this year was Mike Corral playing at right back. Mike Corral signed right winger striker. And then after James Blair went off injured at Charnock, Mike came and filled in at right back. And he's stayed there ever since. Talk about the transition with that and the conversations that you've had with Mike over him moving him into that position while Sam Hind was unavailable.
Well, obviously, so the season before we'd played Sam in the final, and so Paul Connor had been our regular right back. We played Sam in the final for a specific reasons, and we played Jacko in the final for specific reasons. And you know, it wasn't any great tactical masterpiece, but ultimately we won the game. So we knew that, you know, let's say Jacko could play in there, and then with Sam coming back this year and Paul deciding not to come back, we were in the base that, well, Sam will be the right back, and he did well in pre-season. He played there, got injured. For Mike to drop in there, what we looked at there really was that he's very similar to Sam in that, you know, really good athlete. He's a clever footballer as well, is Mike. You know, he knows what he's doing. He understands what you ask him to do. And really, he kind of just took to it so easily within the first, because I think he played there at Charnock, and I think in the game after we had to play him again because James wasn't available again or whatever. Sam certainly wasn't. And he just did so well that we looked at it and thought, actually, we think he can play there. And because he's a very sort of easygoing character, he didn't kick a fuss up. He didn't say, oh, I don't want to play there. Another one that's very unselfish when it comes to doing what he needs to do for the team. So initially we were thinking, well, he'll play there for a little while, and when Sam's back fit, you know, he'll go back in there. But I think Sam took a little bit longer to get fit. Mike just did better and better. The team did well. We weren't conceding. I think it suited Mike from the way that we play for him to be able to make runs from deeper. And in the end, I think if anybody's looking at him, you would never know, looking at his performances last year, that there's a lad who, as you just said before, spent most of his career playing as a right winger or an attacker. You'd look at him and go, he's probably been the best right back in the league all season.
I think you're exactly right. I think it gives a credit to all the players in the squad. You know, we've had players who maybe don't play in their natural position, but actually they're filling into another position, and then they're making it. They're bringing. We saw James Ormrod play at Whitchurch away. He normally is holding midfielder. He came in for them at centre half. He hadn't played too many games before that either. He played brilliantly. We saw Bobby Turner play against Whitby in a massive game there. I think he had an outstanding game that day as well. So you've seen we've got a lot of players in the squad. I mean, Matt Woolley's another one. You can put him in at centre half and he'll do an absolutely fantastic job. Yeah, exactly. It's just one of them where you must be so pleased to have the versatility in the squad, so you don't need to go out and then maybe bring in 2 or 3 extra players on as just in case. Whereas you've got that stability in your squad.
You look again, and I think even last year when we weren't, not last year, the year before when we weren't playing too well, and I know a lot of people were jumping up and down and saying, "Oh, the players are not good enough, this and that." Bo and I never at any point thought we need to bring 4, 5, 6 players in. We really didn't. I think the most we brought in was probably the first year that we were fully in charge, and that was in pre-season. So, we work very much on the basis that we'd rather have the team in, unless something drastic happened and you lost players or a lot of injuries, then we've not tended to bring that many people in through seasons and get them involved. Stu came back to us last year, Stu Wellstead, but that's a different kettle of fish because he'd obviously been with us before and he knew about us. So yeah, we looked at it all the time whenever we had little gaps like that, or thinking, well, should we shuffle him round? Can he play there? And generally, well, we did think, yeah, he can play there. And the other thing was, as I say, I think from a player's point of view, they would rather have a chance to go and play in a different position but play in the team than sit there going, well, he's brought somebody else in to play and I could have maybe played there. So that was always a decision as well. But I think the other massive thing, and I said this to you so many times after games, we've got good players. No matter what you look at, we've got good players, and no matter what you want to coach them or what you want to do with them, if your players are not good enough, then any team's going to struggle. But we've got lads who are more than capable of playing more than one position. There's very few in that team that you wouldn't think, well, he could go and play there, or we might be able to get a role out of him there. They can all generally play in different positions, and as you said, for a squad and from a team point of view, sometimes you've got to do a job that you might not be totally comfortable with, but you just have to do it. And there's been quite a lot of cases like this year where we've said to people, even coming off the bench, need you just go and do that. Need an example being Jack Tinnin. A couple of times we put him on at left wing off the bench because we thought we just need to solidify things. Harry Kane's come on and we've asked him to do something slightly different. Sam. So we have got players who are adaptable, but bottom line is every single one of them are really good players.
Now, one player mentioned there is Harry Kane. Now, when he joined, he had a couple of injury problems himself. He was out injured just a little bit here and there, but when he came back, I remember that first half he played against Squires Gate where he scored, I think, was it a brace, or did he score a hat-trick in that first half? He played, he played them off the pitch in that first half. You must be delighted that you've got a player like Harry Kane who's got so much trickery and so much sheer pace as well to complement someone like Lee Knight and Taylor on the other side. Yeah.
Well, you see, Harry's one again that we spent two summers trying to get Harry. So the first season we took over, he played in a friendly for us at Sandbach, and we wanted him to sign then. He wanted to go and try and play higher, which he did, no problem. And then we spoke again last summer, similar kind of thing. He was close to joining, decided not to. And then this year he wanted to join, and he came. And I think with Harry, he was a bit unfortunate. Like I say, he got a bit of an injury, so his pre-season got a little bit disrupted. Plus as well, and we had this conversation with him, he kind of took a little bit of a while, not to fully grasp what we wanted him to do, but where we saw his responsibilities probably more so without the ball, if you like. But once he think he got over his injury problems and was fully fit, there's 2 or 3 games where he was unplayable. Absolutely, as were 1 or 2 of the other lads on occasions. But you're right. We're fortunate in that you look at Harry, Lee, Taylor, Callum, who's played in wide areas for us as well. Mike when he was playing there. One of the things that's been really good for us this year is that we've been able to mix that up a little bit and have different options. Whether they started games, and we've done that with them. We've said, look, we're going to start Harry because we think this will suit him, or we're going to start Lee because it'll suit him. So it's been a big plus for us, is that. But I think Harry, again, is another one that as the season progressed, he got better and better.
So in terms of the widemen, then like you said, certain games might suit them differently. Is there no, in your heads, that the two that you would prefer to start most? Is it a case of, well, depending on the opposition, you'll play the different players to suit those sorts of games?
That's how it's worked out, to be honest with you, all season where we've looked at it. And there's been times when people have been really on form and you thought, well, we won't change that, or we've had some injuries and we've had to shuffle people around. But in an ideal world, right now, where everybody's fit and available, you say four at the moment. You'd say you've got the four there for two positions, and we'd look at a game and think, well, that might suit him better. And there's been many occasions where, people have started the game and we brought them off, and we put somebody else on, and it's made a difference. I can recollect Callum going on, not being very happy because he's on the bench, and then getting on quite early because somebody got injured, and he either scored or created a goal for us, played great. Lee Knight the same. Harry definitely the same. Not happy about coming off, not happy about being on the bench, but going on and making a difference. So that's been really our mindset all year. We looked at every single game as we've gone along and thought, what's the best, not just there, but what's the best mix of players to try and get a result. And just to add to that, you now look at pre-season, and we've got Joe Woolley back and we've got Ryan Jackson back. So there's 6 all of a sudden wide players. So we are blessed to have players like that, really.
I mean, you mentioned Callum Gardner there. Now, he's someone who's come on leaps and bounds, I think, this year. Nobody's denied ever that Callum's ability, but when he got more games and was consistently playing, some of the performances he put was outstanding. Skelmersdale away is one of them. His performance that second half was fantastic. He must be really pleased to see that he's really, really come on this year and he's really performed the more minutes he's got.
See, Callum's one, again, I think a lot of people last year had really high expectations of Callum because he'd done well against us for winter, and that was one of the reasons why we signed him, because he'd always done really well against us. I'd watched him a few times. I liked the way he played. I liked his character and everything. And Callum, nobody works harder than Callum in training. Same last year, worked really hard. I think I had this conversation with him. Ultimately, last year, he kind of he improved his game massively last year, but without the ball. So from a defensive point of view, he really did well without the ball. He did a lot of stuff, again, quite unselfishly for the team. But this year, we'd said to him, we need to be a bit more, get him in more advanced areas where he could actually use his ability to get at people. And he's a different type of player, isn't he, to Harry and to Lee Knight, certainly. But I think you're right what you say. The more he's played this year, and he's another one. He's like the all he's never happy when he's not playing, but his attitude is always absolutely bang on. But I think the more that he's played, he's shown people. Because I think some people doubted him a little bit, if I'm honest with you, Matt. I think he's shown people just what a good player he is and what an effective player he can be, not just from wide areas, but there's a couple of times where we dropped him into midfield a little bit and played from there, and he did really well. I think he played there against Witten in the cup. I might be wrong, but he certainly did really well there. He's another one who can play 2 or 3 different positions,
Yeah, I think he's been excellent this season, Callum Gardner. I think, again, the more minutes he gets, the more he plays. He's one of them players that will just get better and better. Now, moving on to team talks and how you are at half time. Now, you and Bo normally go in and then first out the dressing room. Now, they both talk actually the first out. I remember listening to an interview with Jose Mourinho once where he said that you actually maybe get about 5 minutes with the players all told during half times. I mean, at the higher levels, they might have more fitness and physios available to use different things. How do you take half time in games? Obviously, it depends on the situation for the games. Do you leave it up to the players, more so some of the leader players, or in some games, do you really give them a going over when they need it?
Well, I look at before the game and at half time as how I was as a player. So I didn't really want somebody standing there for hours on end lecturing me, telling me how to play. If I don't know how to play or what the plan is for the team before that, and we do a lot of that on a Thursday night, then it's a waste of time for me. So both Bo and I, we spend probably 5 minutes or so, 10 minutes maximum before the game, just really sort of talking about general things. We don't really go into that many specifics. the only thing I do specifically, and I do it every game, is I'll go through set pieces and stuff like that with the players. That's probably more for me, if I'm honest with you, just so I know I've done my job. If we can, we'll put them on the board as well. And then at half time, even when games are not going great, there's not many times where we kind of really have to, or really feel that we need to kind of go off at the deep end, if you like. I just don't think that entirely works. Yeah, we've had occasions where we've had some strong words, of course we have. But again, I think that the longer you spend in that 15 minutes taking that up from the players, it becomes ineffective, really. And you mentioned something before, which is absolutely right for us, and we're fortunate. We've got players in there that, and we've done this. I can think of one very specific occasion where we came in at half time and we specifically let one or two of the players say what they felt about a situation. I'm trying not to give too much away here, and we just let them do that, and they sorted it out, and we've done that after games. I've asked a couple of the players as we've come in, you say your piece, and I know for a fact when we come out of the dressing room that they will have their discussions about what they feel about the game. At the end of it all, Matt, it's one of those. I'm not playing the game. I'm like you. I'm standing watching it. There's not a lot I can do or Bo can do. There isn't. Any shouting or whatever we do from the sidelines, a lot of time is just for us relieving our stress and tension. And sometimes it's rubbish. Sometimes it might have an effect. But the players are actually playing the game. They know what's going on. They understand perhaps what's not quite right. And I think if they sort that out themselves and they have that discussion at half time, they have it before games. We leave them before the game as well. We come out of the dressing room and leave them to it. You listen to some of the things that go on in the warm-up and the conversations. And some are more vocal than others, obviously they are. But you just know that they know what they're doing. They know what they're saying. Plus the other thing is as well, they've all been together for so long. A lot of them 3 years, 2 years. There's only 3 that came in last year. So again, you move into this year, you've got lads who have been there a long time, that get on well, that can probably take having a little bit of a go at each other better than maybe if I decided I was just going to rip into somebody for the sake of it. Don't get me wrong, there are one or two that I know react slightly differently to different ways of motivation. Of course they do. But no, I think we both believe that the players are ultimately the ones who are going to sort things out. The other things that we might do is at halftime we might make a change tactically, or we might make a change personnel wise. We've done that a couple of times, and then really I think our job is just that as the game goes on, do we think it's right to change something in the team to help the lads that are out on the pitch?
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned there that you and Bo on the sidelines, there's not much that you can do to interfere with the way that they're playing. Maybe one or two things when there's a break and play. But a lot of other sides, managements, we won't mention who, but they take a massively different approach, and they'll be there and they might be shouting and screaming at some of the players. Do you think in some ways that has an adverse effect on the way they play? That might give you more pressure put onto teams and like use that sort of tactics that you then choose not to?
I can't really comment on other teams and how they go about it, because everybody's different, and there's no right or wrong way, and as I say, it depends on the mix of people you've got, depends on the personalities of players, I think. As I say, I think in a lot of cases, from a management point of view, coaching point of view, a lot of stuff that goes on the sidelines is just, it probably doesn't affect the players one way or another, because it's just somebody doing whatever they want to do on the sidelines. I do think there are occasions where we sort of listen to what goes on in the other dugouts, and you almost know that psychologically we've kind of got one over on them because they're reacting to things that perhaps they shouldn't react to. But everybody's different, so if that's how people choose to coach and manage the team, then who am I to say that? I just know from a play, as I say, even though it was millions of years ago since I played, I know from a playing point of view that if somebody's ranting and raving on the sideline and constantly screaming instruction to me when I'm playing, I'm either not going to pay attention to it, I'm just going to shut it out, or I'm thinking, well, you're telling me one thing 1 minute and now it's another thing another minute. So you've got to be careful, I think, what you shout sometimes from the sidelines, because you can confuse players.
Now, another question that I had lined up was about how you found the transition. Obviously, you've played in the Football League for Barnsley, for Crewe, for Rochdale, and then now you've moved into management, into non-league as the years have gone on. How have you found the transition in football changing in the way that it's being played, and then how much impact on your management does it have from how you were treated as a player? Obviously, you mentioned different things before, but does that have a massive impact in the style of what you choose to do?
I'm not sure how I was treated as a player, and what I kind of grew up with bears any relevance to what the game is now, or not how the game is, or how people are now. Society is different, so the whole approach to everything is different. So I think you've got to be more. This is my personal viewpoint. You've got to be more trusting of players. You've got to treat them more as adults than perhaps it was in the past. And you've got to really, I think, understand who they are as a team, as individuals. And I'm not saying that Bo and I are perfect at that, but I think we kind of know enough about each individual in our team to know what works for them and what doesn't work for them. And then when you're talking about how you decide to play, well, again, I think the game's changed massively. From a playing point of view, even at non-league level. I played non-league for a good number of years, and it was a different game back then than it is now. But again, that's just evolution of the game, I think, in general. So when it comes to how you play, yeah, I think you are influenced by what you've gone through. So I was fortunate, again, even though it was a different era and it was a long time ago, but I was fortunate to play for quite a number of managers who, their approach to playing was they wanted to keep possession, they wanted to play at a good tempo, they wanted to, press and get ball back, all those kind of things. So you are influenced by that, and then you sort of look at it that this is my viewpoint. If I'm going to coach a team and I'm going to stand there and watch that team play, then I want them to play in a style that I quite enjoy. But don't get me wrong. I mean, if we didn't have the players that we have, then we wouldn't play in a certain style or a certain way. You have to adapt to that. And if we had players that meant that we were more effective being more direct or playing a different way, and we think about that on a regular basis, then we'd do it. But yeah, if you were the manager, you'd have an idea of how you wanted your team to play, and you'd set that out and you'd work at it, and you'd get the lads to buy into it. And again, I go back to the players. I think the way that we've evolved over the last couple of years, that's down to the players, because they have to do it on the pitch. They'll take on board what we think we want to do. We discuss it with them. We talk about how we want to play and what we're going to commit to doing, and they'll take that on board. If they didn't feel comfortable with that and it wasn't right for them, a few of them would tell us without a doubt. They'd say it's not right. But also you'd have to look at it and go, well, we need to play a game that suits the players we've got. And at the moment, the players we've got suit the way that we play.
I think in some ways that we are fortunate. I think at this level, it's quite rare to find a squad of players that have been together, like we mentioned before, for a number of period of time, really. Not only benefits you with them buying into the way that we play. We saw last year, it really clicked and it really gelled. Even the Vase year, they played really well. The back end of the year, but the year before last, they played really well again. Do you think it's just going to be one of them where it gets consistently better over time? The longer they play, the players who then rejoin, they then get into it as well. Do you think it's one of those situations where we will only get better?
I think everything has a shelf life, doesn't it? So, me and Bo included. But I think when you keep a squad of players together, certainly at any level, but certainly at non-league level, then that's a positive. That's a big positive, because a lot of clubs will have a turnover of players. I'm not saying they all have sort of 10, 11 players turnover, but they'll have maybe 5 or 6. They lose. We've been fortunate; we've not lost many players to other teams, so that's aided us. But you look at Linnets, Coles over the last few years. Their teams pretty much for 3 or 4 years stayed consistent enough. Odd change here and there, and they progressed on. And Cole's progressed on 2 leagues. Majority of their lads stayed together. So it is a big factor if you can keep them together. And I think they do improve. I think we don't think that over the last 3 seasons that we've been fully in charge. That apart from the first half of the previous season where we weren't great, we think that we've got better and better really over that whole period, and we've progressed. The first season, the Vase run was great. We had too many games to make up, but I think when we actually came out of the Vase, in real terms, if we'd have been closer to the teams at the top in the games we played, we might have been able to do that, But so it was only really that we had so many games to play that we ended up losing so many and having to change people around. And as I say, last year, I think we just got better and better, and the players improved again. Now, whether who knows, whether we'd have got promoted this year or not, we'd have still had to improve because we'd have been in another league. And we can't just, this is one of the messages we've all agreed, we can't just sort of think, oh, well, we'll just pick it up again and it'll be exactly how, because it won't. There's no way it'll happen like that. We've got to improve again. So that's why, as I said to you, we're looking at improving things for our preparation for pre-season and things like that now. Can we do this better? Can we do that better? Can the players come back and be better? Because otherwise you are just going to stand still. So
yeah,
I think all our players, every single one of them, I think have improved over the last 2 or 3 years quite a lot. In some cases, quite a lot.
So in terms of the improvements then, not just from the players, but in terms of competitions, I'd assume that the FA Vase out of this season is the one for next year. We'll be playing the North West Counties at this level. You'd assume the FA Vase is something that you would really like to make an improvement on from this season.
Well, would you like that, or are you asking me if I think the fans would like that?
Well, I wouldn't be opposed to it now.
Look, we if you say that we're disappointed about anything last year, it was going out of the Vase at the first game. Not that entirely we felt that we were poor on the day. We just didn't take our chances, and it was one of those. It can happen. So, if we had gone up, then we wouldn't have been in the Vase this year. Now we are. So as we do with all competitions, I think we're good that way. We'll give it our best to do as well as we can in that, and we know from the year year that we had a good run, and Vic's last year had a good run. Once you get through 2 or 3 rounds, then it starts becoming a little bit interesting, and you can start thinking, well, maybe we can sort of have a go at this a little bit. But we want, we're not going to prioritise the Vase. We're not going to, do that. We'll be in 3-4 cup competitions plus the league. And we always say, let's try and stay in as many as we can until we get after Christmas, and then you can see where possibly you can get to. So I know where you're coming from, and I know fans of all clubs at our level will think it would be nice to get a run in the Vase. Of course it would, because it was great the year before. It was amazing for the players, great experience for them. I think every one of them it's something they'll never forget, even though we ultimately didn't do anything because we got knocked out in the semi-final. But for them to have that experience, and the fans as well, we'd all like that, but we'll see what happens with it.
So in terms of coming on to next season, then I'm assuming that you'll be anticipating that every other team will want to be raising their game to match the level that we put out this season. But of course, we need to improve as well. What things do you think that we can improve on, maybe on the pitch and off it as well, to maybe maintain those levels and improve them once again? Is it big adjustments, or is it just like your 1% type gain?
Yeah, I think you've got to look at phrasing it, marginal gains across the board on a lot of things. I mean, of course, every team will want to raise the game, not just against us. They'll want to raise the game. They'll want to do better than they did the season before, because that's just the nature of the beast. But it's not like we're going to sit there and go, well, we're just going to do the same as we did. We want to raise it again. We want to go and be better. So we want to concede less goals. We want to score more goals. We want to keep more clean sheets, be at the top of the league for longer than we want that. Whether we'll do that, I don't know, but that's what anybody will aim for. Any club in that league starting next season on the first day will have those aspirations. So, we've got to improve. I think we've got to improve when I look at our game, I think we can improve defensively, not just as a back four. I think as a team, I think we got better, and we can do, and we'll look at that in pre-season. I think there's times when we could have been a little bit better with the ball on a more consistent basis, so we'll look at that. And then as far as off the pitch, I mean, I can't thank our club enough for what they do for us off the pitch. You know, we're so well run. You know, the players are so well looked after. You know, you can't underestimate that, because I think that counts for a lot as to why our players are so loyal and why they stay, because they know that they get well looked after. And I'm not talking financially. I'm talking about, you know, they have decent gear for training. They have, you know, the match day kit's good. We're looked after right before games, afterwards as well. The atmosphere is good around the place. So all those things are big pluses for us. And the move to Barnton, you know, was one where people weren't sure how that was going to go. And I think we all agree it's been a really positive thing.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's taking nothing away from the club being at Winsford for a period of time. I think it was just, you know, it come to its natural end. I think that was ready to happen. So again, I know there's stuff going on down at the ground to make that better again. So that whole experience of being there. So all those things, I said before, you just can't stand still. No matter what's going to happen with this season or when it's going to start or how it's going to work out, you've got to improve that off the field. And we've had those discussions with the club. We had a Zoom board meeting the other week and spoke about a few things. And so for us off the pitch, we've got to do our bit as well, and we've got to improve. We've got to strive to be better than we were this year. Whether we will, I don't know, but that's what we'll certainly be aiming to do.
Now, I put out on Twitter yesterday for any other fans who've got questions. I've asked you quite a few now, and I'll turn to the fans who've asked you questions. This one's from Chris Williams. What's your most embarrassing moment in football?
I'm not sure. Most embarrassing moment in football? As a player or as a manager?
It can be either. It's up to you.
Probably as a manager stroke coach at a club where we managed to talk to the team before the game and put the side out or name the side, and then get a load of blank looks back, and one of the players pointed out that we'd picked 12 of them. So that wasn't great. And then we quickly readjusted that, and then came out for the warm-up and realised that we'd left the top scorer out. So that wasn't great. We won the game though, to be fair. So that's
there we are.
Yeah, that was quite embarrassing.
This is another one from Chris. Can you describe how you'd go about developing a game plan? So I don't know whether that's for just a specific team or over the season as a whole, or the way you play your football. How would you develop that?
Yeah, it could be all. Well, so Chris obviously used to be in the dressing room with us, so he'll know a little bit about it. But it was, I think from a team point of view. So, as I say, we look at the players that we've got, how we feel that we would like the team to play, and then we've kind of worked on things, I suppose, in the pre-seasons, because when you get a chance to work on stuff, and then we'll reiterate things through the season. And really, it's just a question of refining that. I mean, we're doing some stuff now ready for pre-season where we're looking at what we did last year and just saying about what we can improve and what we can maybe change slightly differently and you know, perhaps give us a bit of an advantage in some games. So it's something that you kind of evolve all the while, really, I think. I don't think you just sit down and go, well, you could just sit down and go, that's how I want to play. But as I say, if you've not got the players that can do it, then it's never going to work that way. And then if he means do a game plan perhaps from a game-to-game basis when it's an opposition thing. So obviously we're fortunate, so we get most games watched. You know, Andy go and watch games for us, and we'll watch them as well. So you'll look at how other teams play. We generally on a Thursday night we'll go through some stuff on. We're not big on over worrying about how the other team plays, but there'll be some occasions where we'll recognise that they can do things that might, you know, cause us problems. So you've got to be ready to handle that. But generally, we're looking at ways from a positive point of view that we can affect them. So if there's areas where we feel they're a little bit vulnerable, I don't know, say in fullback areas, we'll look to exploit that. If we think they're going to give us the ball back on a regular basis, we'll look at how we're going to go from that. And then we'll sort of talk about it, as I say, on a Thursday, briefly on a Saturday or a Tuesday night. He'll be, you know, revisit those messages and just go over things. But yeah, that's kind of how we would do it on a game-to-game basis.
The next one from Hegwar or Phil Whitehead. What games are currently lined up for pre-season, or can you not reveal that just yet?
Can't reveal that, obviously, because we don't know when pre-season is going to be. But we again, we spoke with Vicky. There are quite a few. There are probably so we want about 7 games if we can. We normally have about 7 games. I think pre-season that suits us. First one very early in July, so the players will come back, do sort of 3 weeks of training, and then we'll have the first game. And we've probably got at least 5 confirmed that we're going to play. Obviously, we can't confirm dates because we're not certain. Maybe we'll know a bit more after tomorrow. But once we can confirm dates and things like that, Vicky will put that out. But yeah, we're working on that, and we always try and make the games as realistic as possible for us. We want a mix of teams that we can look at some things in, and we can make sure people get plenty of game time. So at the moment, I think there's about 5 that we've agreed on, and we'd like another 2. Yeah.
So this one's from Gav Coyle on Twitter. As a fan of football, when you're watching a game, are you drawn to the players that are more of a grafter, or is it the flair players?
Say that again. More a grafter or a what? A flair
or like a flair player?
All right. That's a good question. I'm going to be greedy and say both because I don't think you can have one without the other. I really don't. I think I do like players that can get on the ball and affect things and do different things. I do like that. I always have done, and that's probably because that wasn't my game. I couldn't do those things. I probably fell very much into the grafter stage. But I've seen lads that have got amazing ability, but don't want to put the work in to make the most of that ability. And that's not just sort of, running around willy-nilly. I mean, one of our sayings that we have with the players is, it's not a dirty word. You have to run. You can't play football unless you can run about. Fortunately, we've got people that can do that. But I think it depends on the game I'm watching. To answer his question, if I'm watching something on TV, I probably am more drawn to somebody who does something great with the ball and creates something. I like positive players. I like people who are going to, make things happen in a game. Yeah, I do like that.
Yeah. And the final question is from Mike Wayne over at Silk Sport, who we give live radio updates to every Saturday. How do you already improve an already awesome squad, and how do you control the pressure, especially having the title snatched away this year? Can you repeat this into next season and get what you deserve, in my opinion, which is to be champions? His words, not mine.
Well, we've had no title snatched away because we never were in a position to win it. So that doesn't really, stand up. We were top of the league when it ended, but that's about it. That counts for nothing. How do we improve the squad? Well, like I say, we'd had conversation. We wanted everybody to stay, which it looks like they will do. Have we looked at bringing people in? I'm not going to deny. Yes, we have. Have we spoken to a couple of people? Yes, we have. Will they come in? Not necessarily, because for us, massive plus for us is we view it as potentially we've got 5 new signings coming in anyway, because I know Joe, Wooly and Ryan had some involvement towards the end of the season, but they've had such a long time out with those respective injuries that they're a bit further on. But so that they'll come back for pre-season ready to join in everything, I would guess. Jack Earlham's the same. Jack unfortunately had a relapse with his ankle injury, but he's now at the point where, he was actually going to come and start training again towards the end of the season. So he's got a bit more time. So there's a new sign, if you like, almost coming in. Hopefully Ryan Mitchell will be okay as well. He's probably a little bit further back, but again, the time when we spoke to him this time now might give him a chance to get himself ready fully for pre-season. But his intention is to come back for pre-season. And then obviously Jack Pritchard. Jack's worked really hard on his rehab from his knee injury. He's, it's almost going to be 12 months exactly from him getting that injury in pre-season to him coming back, and he's ready to, come back in. So all those players realistically strengthen anybody's team. That all 5 of those could have been in our team at any point last season, and it'll be down to them to come in and force the way back into the reckoning. They know that. They know that the lads who've played have had a good season. And also the lads that are in there now will know that, well, there's 5 lads that can come and take my spot. I mean, we were talking about this the other night when we were planning it. We're going to have 25 players plus, by the looks of it, coming back for pre-season.
Which is incredible.
So, well, it is, and I think it's testament to the club that players want to come back and do that. But we're under no illusions. There might come a point in that pre-season where we have to have some conversation with people and sort of say, look, we don't see you figuring on a regular basis. Last year was great for us because we said on more than one occasion, from a selfish point of view, Bo and I, it was great to have players remaining and staying loyal. Nobody wanted to leave. There was a couple through the season that we had a conversation with about where they wanted a bit more game time, and fortunately we were able to give them that, and they stayed. But it might be more difficult this year because lads might look at the start of the season thinking, well, if I'm not in the side and I'm not in the next 2 or 3 weeks, I want to go and play football. Of course they want to play football, and we understand that. But certainly for pre-season, if everybody comes back that says they're coming back, we're going to have a big squad of players that are all going to be trying to get in the team, which is great for us. And it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. So, we think we're going to improve without bringing anybody in. They would have to be the right character to come in and the right player as well, and better than what we've got to come into the squad, because, nobody's really going to come in and not want to play. We know that. But just those 5 additions alone, for us, strengthens us.
Wayne, thank you very much for joining me today. It's been about a good hour chat, really. I didn't anticipate how long it will go, really. It's the first one, so we'll just see how it went. I hope everyone's enjoyed it. Please do let us know how it went. Do you want it shorter next time? Any other features or different things in it? Hopefully get some players on, board members like I mentioned earlier. And any more questions that you'd like to put to the players. I'm sure I'll get Bo on at some point as well. But thank you very much for joining me, Wayne, today. I really appreciate it.
Welcome. It's been a pleasure. I hope everybody's okay and staying safe. And like I say, hopefully we'll see each other soon.
Thank you very much, Wayne.
Cheers, Matt.